guy. How much can I talk about? How much can I say? Like, can I say
Say
everything?
it all. Say it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to make sure.
Don't hold back.
Okay. So, yes, the German gentleman allowed the guy to cut his penis off and cook it up, and they were going to eat it together. But they found out that the penis was, of course, as most of us know, it's pretty much all muscle, and it was too tough. So they weren't able to eat it together, and he left him, if I remember right, he left him in a bathtub so that he could cut off little pieces of him and cook it up and eat it throughout the time. I think he got in trouble, though, even though he had a signed contract stating that this guy was like, yeah, you can do this. We're going to do this. I agree to this. Because he wanted to commit suicide anyways. So, really, to tell you the truth, I think this newest guy, I think he kind of was hoping for that. You know, that, like, somebody would be like, oh, yeah, hey, come do that to me.
I think it went even as far as the guy was videotaping the whole incident. I think there was actual video of the because the guy was intelligent enough to realize that he was about to commit murder.
Oh yeah.
And so to try to cover himself legally, I believe the entire event was on video, and that was his defense. However, like you said, there really is no defense for murder, and people don't realize that suicide is against the law.
Mm-hmm.
You can be prosecuted for suicide if you survive.
Right.
Obviously, that's an issue.
Because isn't that where was he from? Paul, Japan, China, Korea? One of the Asian guy that ate people. And he became like a local celebrity.
The Japanese guy who killed the French. He was in France when this happened, going to school, and he killed a fellow student, a beautiful young girl who was his student. She was kind to him, and not many of the other students were. Yeah. And he invited her over or something. I forget what the actual arrangements were. And when she had her back turned to him, he shot her and killed her. And then cannibalized her. And then he went to jail in France. And France's legal system leaves a lot to be desired. And so rather than keeping him there in France, they deported him back to Japan. Japan didn't want to deal with it either and pretty much let him go. And he's been living free for decades. And as you mentioned, became a local celebrity, which they wrote manga comics about.
Oh my God!
There's a whole documentary about this guy too. He's not only let go, but he has actually profited from his crimes and become a celebrity over it.
Wow!
This is
sickening.
Yeah, which before we started this podcast, we could segue into another part of this is that I was looking at criminals that were free. Now, was it the Charlene Gallegos?
Yes. Charlene Gallegos. Yeah.
She was actually freed. I'm not sure if she's still alive, but as of a few years ago when I did my book, she was freed. She did her term in jail, and she was actually out and living free. The woman that Paul mentioned earlier, Deborah Green, who was known as the general, or one of the two generals for this Love Ministries, which then became a militant ministry, is also now free. She had a 72-year sentence, which was issued in New Mexico for, I believe, child abuse, and might have been even, I'm not sure if there was a homicide, but I think it had to do with child abuse. So 72 years though, and that was like acquitted after she had done a certain amount of time, and now she's free again. So there are, besides the horrible people that were never caught and never convicted, there are literally convicted murderers out there free because of legal systems, not just in our own country, but abroad. Monsters living among us. No consequences.
And It's so funny that you mentioned Charlene Gallegos because her husband, Gerald Gallegos, was married to one of my employees at Secretary of State, aunt, Elena McEntee. She was one of my employees, and one of her aunts was married to Gerald for a short while, and then he married Charlene, and they went on that spree.
That's scary.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Hey Zandine, what's the as far as cults go, because we just kind of segued into the Love Ministries, which was a famous Sacramento cult, which then moved around and ended up in New Mexico. But what are some of your memories about some of the more famous cults, or maybe if you had any brushes with cults in California?
Drinking my face.
Do we want to get into femcells and subculture, or you want to go into something else? Because
whatever you feel like doing. I just know you grew up in San Francisco, and I know the Jim Jones cult kind of had some time there, didn't it? And right around the time you grew up, right?
Yeah, they're buried at the Oakland Cemetery.
About that, I actually went to Macedonia Missionary Baptist Church, which a lot of the members, some were left over from that aftermath. And then in the Fillmore district, although it was everywhere, but in the Fillmore district, there were a lot of victims because this church was like right around the corner. And so there was a playground where we had Pop Warner football, and then we had like a community center where you would swim and do all this. He had a church like smack dab in the middle of all that. And so people, from what I understand, they thought it was a good thing at first. And, he galvanized members. But once they made that move to Guyana, people didn't hear from loved ones. And, people thought, their brother, their uncle was weird. Or, that's when the cult, when all, the talk around, at least Banneker projects. So there's there's a series of projects pretty much named after leaders, Benjamin Banneker, Marcus Garvey, Thomas Paine, goes like that. So you have all these people that basically were in this area that, all had some family members that got burned,
Oh, wow. That's sad.
And so, drinking the Kool-Aid, talking about that, then the school I went to St. Dominic's, which was in the Fillmore as well. So we were hearing a lot about it. And then when that thing actually broke out, with the onslaught and the Kool-Aid drinking, and the Representative Ryan going to the island, to Guyana to actually see what was happening. You thought, hey, somebody officials going over there, nothing will happen. You never thought that it would avalanche into that. It just so yeah.
Well, the whole thing, it sounded like a beautiful idea. That would be something that I would love to be able to do. Buy 500 acres, have everybody come on, have a self-sufficient place to just build your own homes. Kind of like the Amish, but not quite really. But, it's got to have a good base. And he was not a good leader. Obviously, he went freaking crazy. But it sounded so beautiful. If somebody was to come up to me and say, hey, do you want to come to this place where we are all a family, we're all a community, we all work together, we don't have to deal with the government, we grow our own food, we build our own homes, we do all this, we live healthy, wonderful lifestyles. I would have been like, heck yeah, I'm there.
Yeah.
Isn't that how they all start? Sorry, isn't that how they all start though? That's the Manson family, right? That's kind of how he started too, with all of his promises. All it takes is one charismatic leader and a lot of promises of a better place, of a better, more fair society, of equality and love. Love is the word that everybody throws around. Those ministries that we just talked about in Sacramento, they literally named their ministry after it, and then quickly it turned into a paramilitary ministry, and they went from we're no longer is it love, we're gonna use the might, the sword,
Koresh.
You know what, when you said the Branch Davidians, I was just thinking, you know, the Waco, Texas thing with David Koresh. Did you hear this other wild story that part of that they talked about a level 5 prionics disease that came from hydrogen bombs, where actually it's really like real zombies instead of like the radiation that kills with cancer. This has this thing that it does, almost like mad cow disease for humans. And so it was a story that these particles are so deadly, level 5, that they have sprinkled in some towns that have gotten a hold to it, and they